First of all, let me thank you, Puleng, for joining us at Net Talk. It's a pleasure to have you on our show. And thank you for agreeing to come on this show. I know you're working out from South Africa. It's a hectic day, but you chose to be with us at our platform. It really increases the value of our platform, right? All the way from overseas. Thank you for joining us at Net Talk. So, Puleng, if I pronounce the name correctly, my viewers would like to have a small introduction about yourself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, Seshan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Puleng Molete. I'm from South Africa. I'm a learning and development manager at Liberty, which is one of the big insurers here in South Africa, particularly in long-term insurance. My work experience was mostly in banking. So I've worked in banking for quite a long time, and recently, last year, I moved to insurance. And I've held various positions in banking and insurance. However, in learning and development, I've been in for 5 years now, almost 5 years now.
Okay, that's great. So, Puleng, how did this journey start? Were you always interested in teaching, learning and development, or is it just an opportunity you got after your graduation or from the college that you took it up? How did it all start?
I actually believe that it was a childhood dream. When you're a child, you keep saying, this is what I want to be. One of the things when you're a child, you also want to be a lot of things, I must add. And one of the things that I wanted to be was a teacher. Okay. And when it was time to go to university, I did my Bachelor of Commerce at Wits University, and later did my honors at University of South Africa. But that dream never died. So there came a point in my career where I was like, let me give it a try. And the easiest way to go about it was to, go into learning and development in the corporate spectrum.
Okay, that's great. So when you started your journey in learning and development, what were the initial challenges as an executive? Like you're joining as a first job, so it's not that easy because you have to learn first of all to teach everyone, right? And you being a learning and development, the expectations are already very high. So what were the challenges?
I was fortunate in that I already had a human resources management degree at the time, which already exposed me, at least theoretically, to learning and development. And as soon as I decided that I was going into learning and development, I then decided to go and do my education, training and development practices studies. So that theoretical background was very helpful to me. It made the transition quite easy. And not only that, but I had a team that was very supportive, team that was ready to answer any questions. So it wasn't that difficult of a transition for me.
Okay, sounds great. Now, if you look at today's generation and today's technology, it's rapidly changing, right? So how do you keep updated yourself? Because when you are updated, only then you would be able to impart such kind of training to your employees or champions, you can do this training. Exactly. So how do you keep updated yourself?
That's a very good question. You cannot be a learning and development professional without being a lifelong learner yourself. You need to make sure that you are always in touch with what's going on in the business that you operate in, but also around you in the industry, what other professionals are doing. And one of the best ways of doing that is join groups. You will find learning and development groups in LinkedIn, for example. You can subscribe to newsletters that bring you the latest news, news about the latest technology that is available. And that is how you get to know what is happening in and around the company that you are in, and attend conferences whenever they are available and whenever you are able to do so. That's just some informal ways of going around making sure that you are up to date with your knowledge. Of course, there are formal ways as well, such as going to, doing a formal course around digital channels and so forth. But use every avenue that's available to you, basically.
Okay, that's great. Now, being a learning and development head comes with a huge responsibility of making sure that people are trained well and they move on to their careers pretty quickly. That means they can take a stride in their career by right training. They do not need to get stuck in one particular position for a long time. Now, having said that, how do you organize such training events? In general, you have worked with various companies. Various companies have various policies and various challenges that comes along with it. Because when you're working in such a large company as Liberty, you have a lot of people to train. You have to schedule them correctly. You have to make sure that people also attend it. So how do you handle this people management?
All right. So being in touch with the executives of the business units that you support is very important. It helps you really gauge what is it that the business needs at a time. It forms a very big part and important part of your learning needs analysis. So ensuring that you are included in your company's management committees or executive committees and you attend meetings, really make sure that you have instant knowledge of what are the business needs. And then what you do is once you realize what the needs are and you've already mapped out what the learning process or the skills development process is going to be, the easier way is then to channel all your communication through the managers and through the executives to help you bring in the people so that you can deliver or start executing and delivering on your learning requirements.
Okay, so but how do you, let's say some people may not be interested in training, though you mean it's going to be there good for them, but they are not really into that comfort zone of retraining or relearning, right? So how do you handle those situations?
I think that's also a very good question. I think in learning and development, a part of our job is to be salespeople as well. Sell your programs to the business so that they can actually see the value of taking part in your learning interventions. But in terms of e-learning, when COVID-19, for example, came up and a lot of countries went into lockdown, we had to continue working and classroom interventions were no longer an option. So we had to do a lot of e-learning, but to ease people into, the transition from classroom to virtual learning, we did a hybrid model. So we said, okay, you're going to learn from, learn virtually, but it's still going to be facilitator-led. So meet the people halfway, don't just go quickly into something new. So first we start them where you do have somebody's going to hold your hand. You actually do have a facilitator you can speak to, you can ask questions to, and then you follow that up with e-learning. And then as time goes on, e-learning becomes a little bit more easier for everyone to engage in.
Okay, sounds great. Now, let's say, for example, a situation demands that you have to finish a particular set of training with particular set of people in the next 15 days. How do you manage to get it done? Let's say it's a challenge. You cannot come and tell me or any employee you have a training in a week's time, right? But it is very important for the company that employees get trained because you have a new project coming in. So you're not looking at hiring, you are looking at retraining, reprogramming those existing resources and doing it. It comes with a challenge with a word called resistance, because people are resistant to new things most of the time. So here comes the people challenge. So how do you manage to get through that? If any?
I'd say that I don't think I've ever experienced a challenge that big where there was too much of a rejection. Usually it's more like lack of understanding of what is it that you are trying to offer. And the more time you put into really making sure that what you are offering is in easy terms that can be understood, and you are very clear about the benefits of rolling out such a training program, then it becomes a little bit easier. And for you to be able to communicate those benefits, like I mentioned, you need to understand the business very well. It's difficult for me to go to a person and say, we are going to solve this problem for you when such a problem doesn't exist in that particular business unit. So it becomes a little bit easier if I've been interacting with the executives or the management team of that particular business unit, and I'm very clear of what the problem is. Then it makes it easier that when I do present my solutions to them, they tie in very well to the problems that they are facing. And everybody wants to deal with less problems. So if I can help and I can show that I can help you deal with less problems on a daily basis, then it becomes an easier sell.
Okay, sounds great. So now, let's say, for example, if you, how do you decide which training is good for what person? For example, if you have to impart a soft skills training, I'm not talking about technology because that's already sorted out. Who can do which training, comes with the project they work. To grow in an organization, what I have understood, you also, to be a leader, you need to have soft skills because that takes precedence in terms of people management, customer management, your communication with a lot of things. So how do you identify your potential leaders in the company and how do you train them for first-time managers, for example?
Right. So with regards to potential leaders, we need the input of the executives, the input of the managers, because they would know the people that they lead a little bit better than I do, because they work with them more regularly. But also performance is a great indicator to tell you a little bit more about a person. But we don't just want to look at performance alone. Let me take sales, for example. A person can be a great salesperson, but not so much a great team leader.
Exactly.
So you want to make sure that you get your feedback from different sources before you determine. So some sort of a metrics would always help you to say, okay, performance is there a tick. Yes, this person is doing what they're supposed to doing and possibly performing above average. And then some sort of a 360 feedback, which includes their line managers as well, just to gauge on how is this person behaving. You also don't want to bring in people who are not disciplined. Think an easy example would be late coming.
Exactly.
You wouldn't want to bring somebody like that into a leadership position just because they are performing well. So you're looking at different facets of a person, their performance, their rapport building with others, their relationship with others, their own personal disciplines and aspirations. Hence, it's always advisable to have things like a personal development plan in place so that we know exactly who to target whenever there are opportunities to do so.
Okay, sounds great. Now, in terms of growth, do you also plan growth for your employees, or is just based on performance and the feedback that you get? Let's say, for example, you identify a good talent, a brilliant talent that's going to be future for your company, right? So how do you work around it? Do you look for the talent in some people, or it's naturally that you give the time for them to grow?
It's actually a combination of the two. We have a talent development managers in place that actually look into that a whole lot more than I would do, but we work hand in hand. So they will go in and make sure that what is the company going to. So in terms of strategic intent, where exactly are we going to, and with that, what kind of skills are we going to require? And then we start looking for talent that matches that in the people that we already have. And once they've been well identified, then that's where I would then come in and say, now let's put them through a skills development process that will get them to where we would like them to be.
Okay, sounds great. Now, moving back to a little easier questions now. I'll be a little tough on you. So, for example, do you have a say in recruitment? What kind of people to be hired? Do you take care of that?
No, I only have a say in my own department, but not in any other department.
Okay, but what about team building? Because learning and development also plays a part in team building as well. Which person can, because you identify a lot of qualities, So how do you do that?
Team building is up to each line manager at this point. So it's not something that I would have too big of an input in. The
Okay.
only input that I would say I would have in terms of recruitment is when we are getting ready for a new financial year and we are having our strategic sessions, we all get to have an input in every pillar of the strategy. And that includes people.
Okay. One important question: hiring versus retraining. Or I would say rehiring or retraining. Do you want to hire people and put them on project, or would you like to train the existing people and put on the project? What would you suggest for a company?
My first instinct would say reach have, but at the same time, I'm aware that it is very important to bring in new skill from outside of the company just to revive the skill sets that you have within. So try and strike some sort of a balance in between to say who can we identify internally that we can retrain, and then what kind of new ideas are we looking for that we may not necessarily have internally that we can bring inside.
Okay, sounds great. Now, in terms of as the time passes on, one individual needs to grow. So, apart from technical skills, what are the other skills a person should possess to grow up the ladder in the corporate world?
All right. Yeah, you've already mentioned the technical skills. I think growth is such a there's no set formula that you could say first add this and then do this and then do this. But it's just a combination of different elements of your being. Professionalism, for example, show up. When you are wrong, own up to your wrongs. But owning up should not stop as yes, I did it, but it should continue at yes, I did it, and this is how I'm going to help fix it. So, taking responsibility, self-development. Yes, as learning and development professionals, we make sure that we provide development opportunities for people, but that should not be left to others. As a person, you should always be looking out for your own self-development opportunities. When there are opportunities to study, take up that opportunity and make sure that you grow. Mentorship is also another thing. Find a mentor in line with what is it that you want to grow into. I find that mentors are able to share quite rich information that you cannot find in textbooks, that you cannot necessarily find in a training room, but it comes from the core of their experience, and that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to navigate the reality that is out there, and if you can find someone who's already lived that reality, then that's great.
Okay, sounds great. How do you handle leadership trainings? The reason being, people are already in a leadership position now, right? You have to train leaders, right? It's not easy to tell them to go and do a leadership training. So, how do you handle that level of training with that level of people? So, how do you plan it?
I think everything session would start with how did you sell your product to begin with? Like I said, it is not a well discussed topic, but I really think a learning and development practitioner should be one that is able to sell what they have to offer. If I'm able to show you what you can benefit from the leadership programs that are available for you, then it becomes a much easier process winning people over into the programs or the any sessions that you might be interventions that you might be offering.
Okay. Now coming to few very important questions. First is what if a fresher is watching this, or if any newbie is watching, somebody or just joined the company and want to go, what are the important life skills or they should have? We all know people are hired for their technical skills or whatever skills they have applied for. To be successful, in short, what are the skills they should have if they really want to grow up the chart very fast?
Right. Communication.
Mm-hmm.
I think also the ability to ask what you really want. That is something that we often shy away from. And you find that it simply comes from the way we were raised as Africans, that you shouldn't be too demanding. You should be as modest as possible. So people tend to really ask what they don't want to ask what they really want, and tends to settle. And it's something that even I personally learned as I was journeying into my career, that you need to start asking.
That's one thing. Good. Is your company hiring now, at least in South Africa?
Yeah, there are opportunities on the website at this point. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how has COVID changed the training, the job of learning and development head? How has COVID changed your role?
Currently, we no longer have classroom interventions at all, because we are all working from home. So all of our learning interventions are either e-learning, or we are doing it online, using Microsoft Teams or Zoom. That's where we offer our training. And even with support becomes not a person-to-person thing, but rather let's schedule a telephone chat at a later stage so that we can talk about this and that in your performance. So we had to hone our digital skills very, very quickly, just to make sure that we are able to operate during COVID.
Okay, that sounds great. Are the trainings going fine during this COVID? Because people are unable to sit at one place for a long time, and internet broadband issues would be there, or just now, like what you see, there would be some noise, other people also will get disturbed. So are you able to implement those training? People are able to do that training smoothly?
Yep, yeah, we are able to do that. And the trick in this one is you need to keep them short.
Sure, exactly.
Session that you can have online should not exceed 2 hours. Try and keep it short. We no longer have full day sessions like we may have had before. So being able to produce bite-sized learning snippets is what's driving us. But it works quite well, because generally our short span is our concentration span is rather short anyway. So the 2 hour bite-sized learning works very well.
Okay, sounds great. Now, before we end this interview, couple of questions is, COVID has hit, it's a worldwide pandemic. I think people are losing jobs everywhere now, or they're being forced to take home the salary which they never negotiated, 50% deductions, 20%, 30%, people have lost jobs as well. So what is the message for them? What they should do? What should they learn? And how should they keep themselves during these tough times?
Yeah, it's quite a sad time, but one of the things that you can look into is that we are transitioning. I think worldwide we are transitioning into the gig economy, where you get paid for a piece of work that you provided. If you start honing in your skills, your digital skills, you find that many small businesses are looking for social media managers, for example. That's a thing that people could look into, that anyone can do. You have some companies that look for transcribers, people who transcribe audio into written. If you have a good command of the English language, that's something that you can consider to bring in an income. So job searching at this point, yes, it may be difficult, but there are so many other opportunities, particularly in the gig economy, where you can do a bit of transcribing there, a bit of social media planning there, just to make sure that you continue generating an income for yourself.
Okay, sounds great. Second is a lot of people have graduated this year, as you know, all over the world, especially South Africa also is the most advanced country on the continent. I think so. Even the whole of Middle East, Asia, and Africa as well, right? Any message to them, because a lot of the companies are not coming to campus. There are no campus hirings. There are a lot of problems. So, any message to them during this time? How the students should keep it up? What should they learn before they join the company? Where they can learn, that also is the most important.
Um, Self-discipline is very important when you are joining a company, because most companies do have a lot of rules around this is the time that you need to start working, and when you are working remotely, there's no one to check after you that you are doing what you are supposed to be doing. In job search efforts, I would say don't just limit yourself to being employed by others, but look at opportunities of putting what you have just learned from university and how can you actually commercialize your skill. What is it that you have learned, and how can you get that to bring you a bit of income? Because we need to start looking out at the skill economy as not as something that can only be done from an employment point, but rather from a trading point. I give you my skill, you give me money. Literally, next time when you need it, you can call me again. You could end up working with several companies at the same time. So don't just limit yourself to finding formal employment, but commercialize your skills.
Okay, sure. Now, as a L&D head, there are multiple technical skills. Since the technologies are changing, a lot of skills are being upgraded. Employees or people are, have to force themselves to learn this to be relevant in the market. So, what are the best technical skills, technology skills in the demand at present?
I think in the L&D space, that would be the ability to use digital channels that we use in e-learning. So your Articulate 360, your Adobe Photoshop, for example. Those are the things that you would need from a digital perspective to learn to make learning interesting. I think we've touched on this before to say working from home. Some people live alone. You don't want to make the learning too boring. It must be engaging. And for that to happen, apart from the actual content, things as small as color can actually play a big role in it. So just being able to use different software like Camtasia, for example, are some of the things that a person can do to stay relevant in their L&D function.
Okay. Now, in terms of technology, just pure technology, which are the technology that's going to be in demand in future?
Sure. I don't want to put my foot in it and say I have thoughts as far as that broadly. So artificial intelligence is something that grows, and I think that whatever technology that we will be needing will be something along those lines. I was watching some video the other day of a mining company that is using those Google goggles to go and find some, oh, I forgot, but it was mainly doing some sort of inspection in a mining environment where it was too unsafe to go there. And they actually used those goggles and some, I forgot the terms now, but basically to just go underground to go view what the issues were without putting anyone else's life in danger. So I think artificial intelligence and any technology that embraces that is the way to go.
Okay, so Puleng Molete is telling it's going to be artificial intelligence for people to learn. We also know that machine learning is picking up, so is data analytics and data science as well. So it's all the part of artificial intelligence background working. So if the viewers are hearing this, it's global. People have to learn artificial intelligence, and that's how they're going to go. So having said that, Puleng, I thank you again for joining at Net Talk. It was wonderful speaking to you. I know a lot of people are going to be watching this interview after this, once we publish this. Before we end this call, one last question is, are you open for mentoring? Because we're going to be mentioning your LinkedIn profile on the YouTube description button. Would that be okay with you?
I'm open to it. Yes, Sachin.
Sure. Thank you, Puleng.
Thanks, Sachin. Thanks.
Okay, so here I was talking to Ms. Puleng Molete. Puleng has been L&D head for various large companies in South Africa. When I'm talking about large companies, they are very large companies, which you would be able to see in the LinkedIn description LinkedIn when you go visit our LinkedIn profile. The reason to bring L&D heads on the Net Talk is to really give an insight perspective about what does it take to grow in a company, plus what are the technical skills that is required in today's generation. So if you really want to be successful at anything, communication is the thing that you need to be very good at. You need to be modest so that people can approach you. Plus, you need to have that ability to ask the right questions, not just questions, but right questions. That also thinks that you need to have that brains to understand what is being said to ask the right question. That means you have to learn a lot, you're a little smarter. If you are not smarter, observe the others. That was the message that she has given. Second is artificial intelligence is picking up because it's risking the life, it's saving the lives of many people. So in mines, in air force, in defense, artificial intelligence is going to play a big role. So if somebody really wants to do something in technically instead of being a normal software engineer or anything, pick up artificial intelligence. I can guarantee you next 30, 40 or maybe 100 years, it's going to be much in demand skills because that's where the entire world is aiming to be smartly intelligent through machines. So that's artificial intelligence. Now, this is an interview from South Africa. Puleng is from South Africa predominantly. I've been working with her from a long time now. I just know through her LinkedIn, we were in touch from a long time. So NetTalk is going global. We'll be interviewing more such people, more insights and knowledge that's going to come. Hopefully, we can give you more insights as the time passes on. I hope that we all can stay in touch. Please follow, subscribe the NetTalk channel on YouTube as well as on Instagram. That would really help us grow this channel, and also through which the main objective of NetTalk is to reach to people, to solve their problems in terms of job finding, in terms of taking the right training. That is something that we need to be doing. So if you know this channel, please share it with your own subordinates, friends, colleagues, family. That would be really helpful. And thank you for joining at NetTalk. The team NetTalk is going to bring you more and more such interviews. Take care.